Welcome to Connecting Cultures with Weirong Lee, where we make connections through inspiring conversations with cross-cultural individuals. Today, we have a very exciting guest. He was born in Austria and raised in Vienna and from Iran. He is the head of startup services at the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber and also a European digital leader at the World Economic Forum. He is dedicated to bringing in migration entrepreneurship and diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, in Austria. Let us give a warm round of applause to Kambis Kohansal Vajargah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you as well, Weirong. Thank you for the invitation and great introduction. You know, I like the energy and the confidence part. Thank you.
So, before we start, I asked you to bring your favorite childhood snack, and you chose a green apple. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it looks nice. Second, it tastes good, but it reminds me of my childhood. You know, when I was still a child, you know, around 8, 9, 10 years old and so on. So my mother always prepared some green apples for me. And, you know, in times of like where you're an adult, you work a lot, you're always like on the go running and it's a bit more stressed, you know. Sometimes if you have something that reminds you of a childhood, it calms you down. It reminds you of like of the past. That's why the apple is my favorite like fruit. Not only the only one, but my favorite one, yeah.
So it's really grounding to go back and kind of also understand where we started and where we are now and kind of rooting ourselves. I love that. Totally
right. And you know, it calms you down because you remember the past good moments, you have a family with your mother. Parents are a very important part of my life, for sure, the whole family. And that's why I think it's always good to remember where you come from.
Right. I love that. Well, since we have it here, this will just be a snack with us during the discussion to make things fun, and that we also have some food with us.
Looking forward to this, yeah? Let's make the first bite.
I'll try to bite now. My lipstick.
Tastes very good.
So, I explained a bit about your cultural background in the introduction, but what would you say when somebody says, "Hey, Kambis, where are you from?" What's your answer?
That's a good question. In the past, I was not sure. But if someone asked me now, I would say 60% Austrian, 40% Iranian. Even though I'm fully Austrian, so I have an Austrian citizenship, but also an Iranian one. So both my parents come from Iran 40 years ago. Still, you know, one thing is are your genes. The second is how you are raised up and the culture behind it. So that's the ratio I would say usually. But I feel like fully Austrian. I also feel fully Iranian. And I think it's not so, you know, important to just from a mindset perspective to associate yourself with just one culture, you know, because if you are raised up, let's say in a city like Vienna, where you have hundreds of different cultures, thousands of different nationalities, not thousands, but like a mix of a lot of nationalities, then it's not just that you feel like just, okay, I'm part of this country or this generation or this like culture. I'm also feel Viennese. For instance, if someone asks me, do I feel as an Austrian or Viennese? I say, yeah, I feel like an Austrian, but also like a Viennese. So wherever you're raised up, where you live, you also get some traits with you, the way you're raised up, and that's how I feel. Yeah.
When did you recognize that? When did you know your answer would be what you said now? How long did it take for you to recognize that?
You know, there was a moment which I always remember, you know, back when I was still at preschool, you know. I had a very good teacher and a very nice class colleagues, but I remember there was one like conversation between them two where they were talking about me, and they were talking about like my German, the quality of German, and that you can hear out of it that I'm not like somehow like fully Austrian. And this you know, it stayed with me. It stayed with me, and this was one of the moments where I said, okay, I will practice on it. I will become like so good that one day I will be even better, like to speak better German than most other Austrians. So I worked on it. And during this time, still, you know, you're young. You're forming yourself as a person, as a character. You have different like influences by your family, by your friends, by your colleagues, and so on. So I think at one point you need to fully accept where you come from, what you want to be, and be open to everything. And it took me years. It took me a lot of years, to recognize this, to accept it. And I would say only like when I started with my first company, okay, which was What You Do, with a lot of like other migrated founders as well. This was the time where I could fully really make up my character, which means that I know where I come from, that I accept it, and then I make use of it.
It's interesting how you mentioned that you kind of took power when people mentioned, hey, you don't sound like a local Austrian, and you decided that I'm going to improve, I'm going to do better with my language. Because I remember speaking about you having you on as a guest, and then someone like, yeah, oh, he's great. I mean, he's Austrian though, no? And so it's like now people now think perhaps that you are not, half, but that you're Austrian.
Yeah,
it's kind of the determination and also the environment that also makes us improve ourselves. So.
Yeah, I think it's, I think it would be wrong to say if you get some kind of opinion which you don't like, you say, I give it up. I think you need to work on it. That's about having ambitions in your career, in your life, in your private life, and so on. And the funny thing, let me tell you, wherever I go, either it's Spain, it's Brazil, it's whatever country I visit, they believe most often that I'm a local. That I'm a local, like the local part of the local population, which I'm not, and they start like talking with the local language. And I think that also like shows how I am. For me, I can adjust myself, I can adapt myself, but I know still where I come from. And I think if you know and you can accept it, that's actually how you can go on in your life. Yeah.
Right. I'll be asking 5 questions, and you have to reply in 5 seconds. They're very simple questions, but we're excited to hear your answer. The first question, what 4 languages do you speak?
So Farsi for sure, English and a bit French.
What's the best song that depicts the Iranian culture?
Very difficult, but there will be Gugush coming this year, which is the most famous female singer in Iran. I would say one of her songs. What's
your next bucket list travel location?
Bucket list. So in July, at the end of July, we'll go to Mykonos with my wife and some friends. So it wasn't my bucket list, but I would just mention it.
Got it. A cultural custom that everybody should experience.
Cultural custom? Yeah. Related to Iran or Austria? Or
anything.
Food.
Food.
This is a good, so local food. Try local traditional food. Always try food.
Food's always the answer. Yeah. What's your go-to Viennese word?
Go-to Viennese word?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say, I would say geil.
Geil. Geil.
You know geil?
Yeah, I know geil. Let's go into business and entrepreneurship, because that's something that you are currently focused on and your expertise is there. You mentioned that your family background, and particularly your grandfather, played a huge role in your interest in business and entrepreneurship. Can you go into that, but as well as kind of connect what is the overlap and what is the connection between migration and entrepreneurship? Do people who are foreigners have more success or qualities for success in entrepreneurship? And perhaps you can bring in a bit more stories of your successful entrepreneurship endeavors here.
Sure. I think if you have migrated somewhere, for instance, or you don't have like migration background, or at least second generation, I think for people it's difficult to understand what kind of challenges are associated with it, okay? Because they haven't experienced themselves. Just something I wanted to put an emphasis on, because I have these discussions and people believe, everyone has the same chance and it's like equal to some extent. To some extent, and depending on where you're working, which kind of industry, which kind of company you're working, and also like your, let's say, your economical background. You know what I mean? So these are all like factors that are very important, how you can improve yourself. Regarding my grandparent or my grandfather, let's say I had like 2 grandfathers, both were like ambitious, they were successful entrepreneurs at one point at least. It also formed, how I became who I am now. So particularly the grandfather of my father's side, he built everything from scratch. So my parents come from the northern of Iran, below the Caspian Sea. and was like in the 20th century, the beginning of 20th century, they didn't have so much, in terms of like wealth and money, whatever. So what he did is like setting up factories that produce tea. So actually we're a tea family. Based on this, on the wealth he made, he started like to become even more an entrepreneur, buying like land, setting up their different factories, working on rice, on kiwi, on oranges, whatever, and he built everything from scratch. You have to imagine during his time when he was young, there was a time of like rebuilding, rebuilding like nations, countries, and so on. And he saw the opportunity. And there's one term called, a necessity-driven entrepreneurship. So you have the innovation-driven entrepreneurship and the necessity-driven entrepreneurship. Necessity, what you can see in a lot of different countries that are, let's say, less developed. Out of necessity, you have to become an entrepreneur to somehow create some wealth. So this also added I think to his progress, and I'm sure also his parents somehow at least formed him as well, like my parents did on my behalf. Now to the second question regarding migration entrepreneurship, you always have to think about it. So if you come from let's say a third country and you migrate somewhere, let's say to Austria or a European Union country, the whole process is not like this. It's difficult, it's challenging. So going through this process already, if you really achieve to do something like this, you have a good basis to become an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, you face a lot of challenges and you need to stay focused and stay ambitious and, keep on going, being persistent. And someone who has migrated knows what it means to stay persistent. And that's why I think they make a good basis for good entrepreneurs. So we run a study last year and this year, Austrian Startup Monitor, where we actually analyze the number of, let's say, migrated entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs with migration background, at least second generation in Austria, in the startup and tech ecosystem. And 1/4, so 25% of all the startup founders in Austria have some kind of migration background. And particularly female entrepreneurs coming from third countries, so outside of the European Economic Region, and they have a higher amount of being an entrepreneur. So there are a lot of like, let's say, PhD researchers coming to Austria with high technological focus, and they have a higher amount of like female entrepreneurship. So yes, it's a good basis. I think this is something we need. We need more out of it to bring other talents with them, other communities, and this is actually how nations are built.
You're going to be basically given 5 minutes to do anything that you want, but mainly for you to share a talent with us. It can be anything from whistling to singing, anything. But we want to show the diversity.
Okay, it will be a bit, to be honest, I think this, if my families and friends see the video, it will be really, I have to get embarrassed, but I will still do it, okay? I will make a Persian Iranian dance. If that is okay, is that a talent? Is that talent? Yeah? Okay. But it will be very short, okay? I just want to show, I want to show the movements. So,
please.
If you are at one point,
are you going to teach us?
At let's say at a party, an Iranian party.
Right.
The thing is, you have to understand they won't let you out of this party without a dance.
Right.
Okay, so that's why I show you now the dance movement, because it will be good if you, for instance, want to get in touch with like females or males there. So okay.
Got it.
So in Iranian, the thing is, you don't like dance like this, okay? You have also fast music, but usually it's very melodic. It's a lot of singing, and it's about, having a good time.
Right.
So the thing is, you always move your hands, exactly. Similar to Arabic or Turkish, you always move your hands.
Fantastic.
That's it. Actually, you can do like this and just, step to the left, step to the right, some hips, and that's it. Yeah, exactly. You have natural talent.
Perfect.
You can also like do like this, exactly.
Wow.
And like this and like this.
Okay.
And one movement my father showed me was like this kind of dance, okay?
Shimmy,
But I don't do it anymore.
Okay.
That's for talent.
Thank you. Is there a particular advice that you would want to give to people with such migration backgrounds, but first of all, aren't taking the move to build up their company, but they're just trying to find a way of how can I integrate? How can I find myself and my identity with having to grow up in such a kind of cross-cultural experience and journey? What is your advice to people who are just trying to find their way at this moment?
What I think is very important, even if you're introvert and you are shy, I think it's very important to try to get somehow like the access you're looking for, and that's where you need to be proactive. So think about, let's say, the startup ecosystem in Austria, in Vienna. We have a lot of events, a lot of community-oriented events where people connect with each other. So the information is available, it's online, you can check it, the different organizations supporting you. Go there, get in touch, you know. Maybe the first 2-3 events you're still more passive, but at one point you need to get in touch, even if it's difficult. I remember myself back, you know, I hated, you know, making phone calls. I didn't like to present. At school I was very shy, but this is something you can work on and train on, even if you're like the opposite. I think that's very important. So one thing is use the events, programs, initiatives we have here in Austria, try to get in touch with it. And then this is like a cycle. I always call it like a cycle, because you get to know this person, this again connects with the other person, and so on and so on and so on. This is how you can benefit yourself. And otherwise, apart from that, you can come to me, to Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. We'll be happy to support you as well, to get in touch with the local, let's say, stakeholders.
So you would, if you were to say what quality of yourself kind of made you be able to build these successful startups and companies so far, would you say it's ambition? Or what quality would you say?
It's a mix of different factors. For sure, it's ambitions, is learning how to be patient. Because as an entrepreneur, you have to stick, you know, with being patient. Sometimes it takes 5 years, 10 years until something really successful comes out of your like entrepreneurial activity. And I think a lot of founders, particularly those who start with that kind of activity, they're not aware of it. You know, that it's not about 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, it's about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. This is something you either have or you need to develop. You need to train yourself. And for sure, you need good people surrounding you. Good employees, good team members, good partners, investors, and even like your private surroundings, you know, pushing yourself. So I always think it's good to stick yourself with people who have the feeling they push you, you know, to push you positively, to stay focused, to stay ambitious, and who keep you being motivated as well. Not that they just say everything what you do is good. You can be critical, that's okay. But people who don't drag you down, I think that's very important. And community in every aspect. And sometimes this takes time until you can find this kind of people.
So thank you everyone who came and listened and watched our conversation. It wouldn't be anything without all of you who are here supporting us. If you have any questions or comments to this episode, or would like to ask Kambis anything, feel free to put it in the comments down below. And of course, for updates regarding upcoming episodes, please follow us on our social media page, Raw Culture. Thank you so much, and this is Connecting Cultures with Weirong Li.